There's no way he eats this stuff, right? He eats raw testicles? Raw eggs? Holy salmonella. This is ridiculous. None of this is ancestral. Yeah, this just stopped being funny. It just started being kind of sad. Today we're looking at the Liver King. We're gonna have some fun. I've actually never seen any of his content. I know it's the steroids guy, right? Somebody released information that he was on steroids and the whole internet was like, no, really? That was a surprise. Completely unnatural looking physique, especially for an older dude. And he's an influencer. He's putting on a show on the internet. My default would be steroids. I mean, you'd have to show me mad evidence that he's not on steroids for me to believe that this is natural. Proving that he's on steroids is like showing me evidence that he has 10 toes or something like that. Anywho.
We evolved eating the whole animal, nose to tail, horns to hooves. But in the modern world, we choose processed foods and muscle meats over the most nutrient-dense parts like liver and bone marrow.
Yeah, we also didn't evolve shooting trenbolone into our butt cheeks, and yet here we are. Honestly, 100% of the time that I've talked to or that I've seen one of these ancestral bros, they don't mean it. They don't walk the walk, they don't believe it, they don't care. They don't read the paleoanthropology research to see what our ancestors ate. They don't really care. It's a sales pitch.
The foods we evolved with for millions of years are the same foods that our biology expects today to heal and be healthy. So ditch the processed foods, the seed oils, and the liquid calories, and start incorporating primal fare like liver, heart, whole foods, bone marrow, and bone broth into your diet to express the leanest, strongest, healthiest version of you.
Yeah, this is all storytelling. Ancestral doesn't mean healthy, especially long term. Some natural things are healthy, some are not. Some unnatural processed things are healthy and others are not. And one thing that people don't realize, a lot of the diseases that are the main causes of death nowadays, heart disease, cancer, they're not new diseases. They're fossils showing heart disease and cancer before agriculture. We have no idea how common or how rare they were, but we know these diseases don't require modern foods to develop. Now, if I say I'm just going to eat natural foods and I'm going to avoid anything that's unnatural, in general, that's not a terrible rule of thumb because I'm going to avoid a lot of ultra-processed foods that are really unhealthy. But we can't rely on this at an individual level. Say these foods are natural, they weren't made in a factory, so they must be healthy for me, and these were made unnaturally, so they must be unhealthy. It doesn't work that way. There's lots of exceptions. We have so many scientific tests, thousands of tests of the health effects of different foods. We are way past all of the storytelling.
All right, this is my Sunday rest day, and I'm getting ready to refeed. Just finished doing a simulated successful hunt, so now we're going to refeed. And
What? I didn't understand half of that. Something about refeed and something about a hunt. Okay?
And this is what I'm about to eat. So I'm going to have a protein shake, and then I'm going to have...
What happened to ancestral? What happened to not processed foods? Protein shake. Dude, it's what I'm telling you, 100% of the time. They don't mean it. I drink protein shakes. I don't have a problem with protein shakes. I have a problem with nonsense. Feeding you some story, some fairy tale, and then doing something completely different.
And then I'm going to have my concoction here, which I'll give you the recipe later. Have a little bit of maple syrup, have some full... fat yogurt.
Yogurt's not ancestral. Dairy's not ancestral. There's one thing we know about ancestrals. Dairy's not ancestral. Cavemen were not milking wild bovine and then fermenting it to make yogurt. This is ridiculous. None of this is ancestral.
I'm having a pile of burgers, and nothing would be...
Is that cheese on the burgers? That's more dairy. That's definitely not ancestral. People might think, oh, I went digging for this video deep and the dark web to contradict. This is the same playlist. Literally that video where he's feeding you those lines about eat what you evolved on and stuff like that. A minute later, you're watching him do the exact opposite. Like, it makes no sense. It's not even trying to put forward a consistent marketing message. It's just completely random, right? Just complete disrespect for viewers. Like, nobody's going to ask any questions. Nobody's going to think or investigate anything. And that's actually a good marketing strategy on the internet, depressingly, because if your content is real dumb, then people who fall for it, who don't ask any questions, who don't look into anything, then those people are going to buy whatever slop you're selling them, right? That's the target audience you want.
Good evening, primals. Liver King here. I just finished doing Barbarian about an hour.
Yeah, this dude is jacked to the gills. This is the other thing. Like the whole marketing here is that this is an ancestral lifestyle. Is this believable? Is it just me? When you look at this guy, the last thing I think is ancestral. When you look at all these pictures of indigenous populations, whether it's in the Amazon or some island, they look lean, they look athletic, but they look nothing like this. They don't look like bodybuilders. And they're not doing sets and reps with weights to failure. They don't have creatine. They don't have protein powder. They definitely don't have steroids to inject. I think this mostly appeals to probably young men, maybe, I don't know, 16 to 23 would be my guess. And the irony is probably men think that if they look like this, they're going to attract women. Women are going to be crazy. I think most women would not say that this is an attractive physique. Feel free to disagree if you're a woman watching in the comments. But I think most women would say that this is too much and kind of unnatural. When you look at sex symbols, they're never the bodybuilding type. They're guys that look athletic, guys that look like they work out, maybe a little bit of muscle, but not this. Right? It's never Schwarzenegger or The Rock. It's always, whatever, Ryan Gosling or a guy like that. So you go through all this trouble, eating these meme diets, injecting whatever drugs, and at the end of the day, you're impressing other young, insecure dudes and not the women you were shooting for in the first place.
So this is what a barbarian eats on a Thursday evening for dinner. First thing you're gonna see is about 4 ounces of turkey liver. This is grilled up with some garlic.
Right, so he's the liver king is because he eats a lot of liver, is that it? So organ meats like liver are very nutrient rich. Things like certain vitamins, like vitamin A, for example, iron, very concentrated. So it can be helpful, for example, someone is deficient in one of those nutrients. There are studies with children who are deficient in certain vitamins and you give them organ meats and you see improvement very rapidly. Or somebody can't get enough of those nutrients in their diet for some reason. Yeah, these foods are an option. They're not necessary in a diet. You can have a healthy diet without organ meats that covers all your needs. But you can also have a diet put together with some organ meats eaten in moderation. You want to watch out for excess though. When you start eating meme diets with massive amounts of this, you can get into problems because those same vitamins, you can get too much of them. Hypervitaminosis is actually a thing with vitamin A, for example. Now, it's not a common thing with most people. It's not something that most people need to worry about. But when you get into these fad meme diets, that's when these problems start to pop up. So the upper limit for vitamin A is 3 milligrams a day. 3,000 micrograms or 3 milligrams. And he said 4 ounces of turkey liver. So I'm looking it up on the USDA database. 4 ounces of turkey liver contains over 9 milligrams of vitamin A. So that's more than 3 times the upper limit for the whole day, right? Just in that little pile of liver, plus whatever else he's getting. Now, if you're getting 9 milligrams once, that's probably not a big deal. But if you're doing this on a daily basis, that's when problems can arise. This is the problem with fad diets on the internet with zero scientific understanding, is things that are uncommon in general can happen because you're doing freaky stuff that nobody does. With influencers, the pitch is always, you're not getting enough of this, you're not getting enough of that, buy my supplement, because fear sells, right? You get someone scared and then you sell them the magic solution. But what they never explain, probably because they don't know, is that these things have a physiological range. You can get too little, you can get too much, and both can cause problems. So it's not just slam as much vitamin A and as much iron as you can. It doesn't work like that. Try to eat a healthy, balanced diet, adjust and personalize for your needs. If you're low, if you're deficient, you definitely want to get more, but be careful with the meme diets.
Liver King here. We're about to have Wednesday dinner. This is what it looks like. We're gonna have liver with every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Product placement? Yeah, because these guys have to make money off of you, right? And the number one way that influencers make money off of their viewers is supplements. And 99 times out of 100, they didn't test their supplement in human beings with a trial. I'll look it up, but I'll be blown up. My head will explode if this guy ran a trial to make sure that this does anything or that it's safe. Yep, I just looked it up. No trace of a human trial. Shocker.
Lunch and dinner. We have a little bit of guacamole.
Okay, that's good. He's got some avocados, some healthy fats in there. We gotta find some positives in here so it's not all bashing.
We got maybe 2 pounds of bacon, cheddar, cheeseburger.
Bacon is processed red meat. Wasn't he complaining about eating processed foods in the modern world?
But in the modern world, we choose processed foods.
This is 100% not ancestral, neither is the cheese. Also, bacon and processed red meats in general are one of the unhealthiest things you can eat on a regular basis. And cheddar is 100% not ancestral. Should we have a drinking game? Every time I say not ancestral, we take a shot?
We got some ceviche.
That looks good. Ceviche normally has some vegetables and some seafood. That looks good and probably healthy.
What am I gonna do with this butter? Well, this is what I'm gonna do with this butter. I'm gonna eat this butter. What else you can do with the butter?
Oh, okay. For a second there, I thought he was going to rub it on his body. He just eats the butter straight like that, just bites into it. I would love to look at this dude's lipid panel. It's probably a dumpster fire. Maybe he'll show it here in a second. More positives. There's not a lot of added sugars. There's not a lot of ultra-processed foods like junk food. So those are all positives. There's a lot of room for improvement here, but he's got some things right.
Liver King here. It's Monday dinner, and this is what we're having. We got about 12 to 14 ounces of some ground muscle meat, some liver, heart, pancreas, and spleen. So we got muscles and organs right here.
I'm not commenting on the look. Most of these meals look pretty revolting to me, but that's super subjective, so it's whatever. Who cares what my feelings are, right? Some people might like it or might find it appetizing. That's personal.
We got about 2 to 3 ounces of some raw liver.
Again, 2 to 3 ounces of liver. If this is beef liver, 2 ounces would be 2,800 micrograms, so almost 3 milligrams. That's almost the upper limit for the whole day, just in that little cup. Plus that other bowl, he said there's some liver in there as well as some pancreas and whatnot. So he's probably easily over the safe upper limit for the whole day just with this meal. Plus that liver supplement, he says he takes breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Now, do I believe that he actually eats like this? I'd be surprised. It's probably all show, if I had to guess. But the point is, the target audience that's going to watch this, the impressionable 16-year-old boys that are going to watch this and think, oh, this is what you eat to be jacked. They're going to go eat the same thing. And if they eat this consistently daily, they're probably going to run into issues. Also, did he say it's raw liver?
About 2 to 3 ounces of some raw liver.
Yep. Do not eat raw organs, whatever you do. You're basically risking food poisoning for no benefit. There's no upshot. They find contamination in raw offal or organ meats. Offal is another word for organ meats. Pretty commonly. Some of the common ones they find are Salmonella and E. coli. One study found Salmonella in most samples of raw organ meats that they examined. Another found E. coli in 60% of beef liver samples and more than 90% of chicken liver samples. Maybe you'll get lucky, but you don't want to play that Russian roulette. If you're going to include organ meats in your diet, definitely cook them.
A couple of Iberico pork sausages. So it's a pound of animal flesh here, and not quite a pound, but maybe.
Sausage is more processed red meat, not ancestral. I think we've established that he doesn't care about what's ancestral or what's natural, right? I think at that point, everybody's on the same page. By the way, almost nothing we eat nowadays is ancestral in the real sense of the word. The fruits, the grains, even the whole grains, the animals we eat, the pigs, the chickens, the cows, all of these things have been bred over many generations by humans. They have been artificially selected. Their genetics has been selected for commercial purposes, basically. The fruit has been selected to be sweeter and larger, and the grains to be larger also, and the animals to be more docile, to be more domesticated more easily, to grow faster, to be fattier. So the nutrient content is different from the ancestors of these foods that we bred them from. And that's fine, because ancestral doesn't mean healthy anyway. What we want to know is the health effect of each food, and we have thousands of tests on all kinds of foods that are available to us now, modern foods. We have no idea what the health effect was of ancestral foods from the Paleolithic, especially long-term, because you can't test something that doesn't exist.
Liver King here. I just finished a workout, so this is an example of my post-workout meal. I'm gonna have 6 raw eggs that's fresh from the farm.
Raw eggs? Holy salmonella. There's actually a scientific study that compared raw eggs to boiled eggs, believe it or not. So they had people work out and right after gave them either boiled eggs or raw eggs. And the boiled eggs actually raise the amino acid levels in the blood more. That actually makes sense because cooking makes the protein more digestible. But when they looked at the actual, what's called muscle protein synthesis, so actual production of muscle in the muscle tissue, it was essentially identical between the raw and the boiled. So I don't know a single reason to eat eggs raw, and there's plenty of reasons not to do it. food poisoning. I'm not saying if you eat one raw egg, you're definitely going to get food poisoning. It's a numbers game. That's a minority of eggs that are contaminated. But I can't think of a single scientific, factual reason to do this.
We have 3 ounces of fresh, raw testicle. We have 2.5 ounces of some fresh, raw liver drizzled in some maple syrup and some sea.
There's no way he eats this stuff, right? He eats raw testicles? Really? Okay, let's take a second to talk about what is known scientifically about the health effects of eating organ meats long term. What studies do we have? I found a few studies, maybe a dozen or a couple dozen. Now, that's not a lot, and virtually everything is observational, so I'd say our confidence is not very high. A couple report a link between high intake of organ meats and specific cancer types. Higher risk of bladder cancer in one study, higher risk of lung cancer in another study. Another one reports more cancer deaths and more total deaths in high consumers of organ meats, and one finds a link to depressive symptoms. Like I said, these are all observational, and there's only 1 or 2 for each type of outcome, so I'd say that our confidence is pretty moderate. I only found one with a positive link in terms of these diseases more long-term, and it was for steatosis of the liver. So that's like a lot of fatty liver with inflammation. So in that study, higher intake of organ meats was associated with lower risk of steatosis. Problem is, it was a tiny study, only 130 people, and it was cross-sectional, which is a very weak design. And then there are other studies that are much larger, like 100 times larger, and are prospective, and they find an association with higher risk of fatty liver. So because we have no randomized trials on these disease risks, I'd say the confidence is pretty modest, but most of the studies I found point in the direction of concerns. Okay, other things to watch out for if you do include organ meats in your diet. One thing is gout. If you suffer from gout, you want to be careful with this. Either avoid organ meats or go easy on them because they're very high in purines, and that can precipitate gout episodes. Another thing is the types of fats in organ meats and liver, for example, is quite high in saturated fat and cholesterol. Eat to your blood work. If your lipids are great, probably not a big deal. But if your lipids are a little bit of a mess and you eat a lot of this, that's one thing to bear in mind. Another thing to bear in mind if eating a lot of organ meats is accumulation of heavy metals. Things like lead and cadmium can sometimes bioaccumulate in the liver. Some toxins can also accumulate there. In general, the liver functions as sort of a detoxifier for the body and a filter for the body. So it'll tend to break down toxins. But in some situations where the animal is living in a very polluted environment, for example, some toxins can accumulate there, or sometimes the byproducts of toxins, and that can have effects that are not desirable. You want to be especially careful for children, and also if you're pregnant, going easy on large amounts of organ meats. All right, next he has a recipe on here. It says concoction. So it's got a bunch of stuff. It's got some ghee. Okay, we covered this. Ghee is a form of clarified butter. It's definitely not ancestral. Whole jar of almond butter. Then he's got some vanilla protein powder. This brand is whey, so it's made from milk, definitely not ancestral. And we're taking shots every time I say not ancestral, right? 12 to 24 grams of salt. That's a boatload. That's 2 to 4 times the recommended amount of sodium for a whole day. Now, I don't know how many servings this is. I don't see the information on here. But if you're eating a large amount of this on a regular basis, it may jack up your blood pressure, so be careful with that. Oh, but he wrote, trust me, under the salt measurement. Okay, well, that's all I needed to hear. And then creatine supplement, not ancestral, and more yogurt, not ancestral. So this has 3 types of dairy: yogurt, clarified butter, and whey from milk. Yeah, this is about as ancestral as a milkshake at McDonald's.
You gave him the bigger balls, goddammit.
Are those bull testicles?
On this plate, we're gonna have some fresh scrotum. We got bone marrow. We have kidney.
Did he say we're gonna have some fresh scrotum? Yeah, that sounds delicious. What are we having for dinner? We got the freshest scrotum for you. Yum.
Have some fresh scrotum. We got bone marrow. We have kidney. We got some liver, and we're finishing up with some fresh Liver King Ranch raw blood.
Okay.
Here's the big nuts.
I guess they do eat this stuff raw. Well, that shut me up. At least for the camera they do. I'm not sure in their regular lives. I hope they don't.
You know what this is?
The liver. Damn! You sure you're not like my long-lost dad?
God, this is like that show Fear Factor, right? It's for that's why this is popular, right? People watch this for like the freak show aspect. I still doubt he does any of this stuff in his normal life. I mean, this is a cartoon character, right? He's got the costume on. People don't really believe that this guy behaves like this and dresses like this in his normal daily life, right? When he's like in line at the DMV or something, you think he's standing there like this and yelling like this and holding the scrotum? Also, help me out here, guys. What's with this gimmicky names for these influencers? We got the glucose goddess a couple weeks ago. We got the liver king. I think there's a guy who calls himself, I think it's lipid emperor, some nonsense like that. Where are they coming up with this stuff? This is like a really bad episode of Game of Thrones where everybody dies at the end because of medical misinformation. Is there a marketing guy somewhere that comes up with these names? Like you go in and you say, I want to be a guru on the internet. First question, do you know anything about biology or medicine? No. Perfect. You're ready. You got two wheels here. Spin the wheel. First one has like a bunch of sciencey sounding words. Landed on diabetes. Great. Second wheel has like royalty names. Landed on the Duke. Great. You're the diabetes Duke from now on. Go forth and make lots of money.
Family Day. My queen, Russia Rabbit behind me. I think they're behind me. But these rain pellets are hitting us at about 16.
Okay, good talk.
Good morning, primals.
Ooh. This is the same guy?
Texas is the state.
What's the time difference here from the first videos? 200 weeks. 3 years and something. This is extreme. I mean, look, age is going to get to every single one of us. And I don't look like I did 10 years ago anymore. That's for sure. But this is pretty intense.
And we're going to go somewhere today here in Austin. If anybody knows...
It's the voice, too. The voice has changed completely from those first videos. He's got wild anisocoria. Like the pupils. Do you see that? They're completely asymmetric. Now, this can be completely benign. Some people are born with asymmetrical pupil size. So that can be natural. But I didn't notice this in the first videos. Yeah, I don't see it there. If it's there, it's much less marked than later. Yeah, when this pops up suddenly like that, you definitely want to look into it. Sometimes this can be something wrong in the eye itself, or it can be the blood vessels. Sometimes it can be a stroke. Like I said, a lot of times it's benign. We don't want to fear monger. If you have asymmetric pupils, and if you've always had it that way, it's probably not an issue. But if it just shows up like that, you definitely want to get it checked.
Something else. Ask me what the password is to Wi-Fi. I can't wait to share it.
Yeah, this just stopped being funny. It just started being kind of sad. We don't want to punch down. That's not funny. I don't know if there's mental health issues there. We want to have compassion. But yeah, the solution is to get help. It's not to spread misinformation on the internet and hurt other people to make money. And I know the temptation is going to be to say, oh yeah, this is because of all the steroids he's doing, or these crazy, insane meme diets. Could be, but I mean, anecdotal, this is the problem with anecdotes. They don't tell us diddly squat about cause and effect, because what else is going on? What other crazy stuff is he doing? These ancestral bros like to sit in the sun all day long. They're terrified of sunscreen. They got no problem injecting steroids and all kinds of other crazy stuff, but sunscreen is going to kill you, so that crushes your skin. You age faster. It could be genetics. It could be an accident. It could be, who knows? How old is this guy? Oh, he's only 47. This guy's younger than me. And the tragedy is, like, young, impressionable kids will follow somebody on social media and think he's someone to look up to. And then a couple of years go by, the guy's broken, and his followers, or his victims, we should say, are suffering from all kinds of issues because of all the nonsense they did, and their insecurities are still there that led him to follow a guy like this. I think people are attracted to this type of thing because it's entertaining in a way. I mean, it's entertaining in the way that a car crash is entertaining. Mr. Beast is entertaining, but I don't go to him for health advice. So you want to be the healthiest version of you. Eat a healthy, balanced diet. Work out. Live a healthy lifestyle. Work on yourself. Stop falling for these meme diets. Stop falling for these supplements that haven't been tested on anything. A guy who can't spell DNA designed a supplement for you. What could possibly go wrong? Stop falling for these gurus. These guys don't have the answers any more than you do. Here's a fact check on the glucose goddess. I'll see you in there. Take care.